Let's get into Intro to Dockerfiles. So far, everything that we've been focused on with regards to Docker has been on running existing containers, right? Which, again, for engineers and developers, it's probably most of what you'll be doing with containers, right? But it's also, I think, useful to know how to build containers. There's a bunch of different ways to do it. Let's go with the most common and, in my opinion, best way of doing it is with Dockerfiles. So there's actually like a file format called Dockerfile, and Docker reads these, and then it uses that to build containers for you. So let's just jump right into it and start building something. All right, so somewhere on your computer, I'm going to go into, let's go into personal, and I'm going to make a directory called Intro to Containers. Okay, I'm going to change directory into Intro to Containers. And I'm going to open my VS Code into Intro to Containers. So right now, I have just an empty directory that we're going to start making some projects together. And again, there is a GitHub repo out there that I've created. It's GitHub BT-hold projects for complete Intro to Containers. This exists out there. This has all of the files that I'm about to do. It also has like the chroot and C groups and all of those. Like it has those as a shell file. So for example, we're about to do Dockerfiles. So as you may imagine, there's a directory called Dockerfile. Click on that, and lo and behold, there's a Dockerfile in there, right? And so if you get behind, or if you don't feel like typing them or something like that, it's all there. And I tried to make it pretty self-evident what goes where, right? So if I go here to Intro to Dockerfiles, right, this is Dockerfile. I try to call it the same thing so that if you go over here, it's also called Dockerfile. So again, I'm going to be using Visual Studio Code. Again, I work on it, so I like it. I also think it's a really great editor, so you should definitely use it, but you also don't have to. I will just be very sad. So in here, I'm just going to make all my projects in here. I'm going to make a directory, call it Dockerfile, cd into Dockerfile. And here, now that we have a directory, Intro to Containers, you can see here I have a Dockerfile directory, create a new file in here, and it's going to be called Dockerfile. And I get a nice little whale right there. So we have a Docker file, right? So what we're going to create here is we're going to create a file that Docker is going to read, and it's going to use that to build a container for us, right? So it's a series of instructions, right? Do this, then do this, then do this, then do this. It's very procedural in that particular way. And literally each line is called an instruction, right? So that's why I say series of instructions, because that's literally what it is. So we're going to make like the most basic node Docker file ever. So the first thing you need to start out with is a base container. So you say from, I get nice auto completion, thanks VS Code. Pat myself on the back. I didn't do it, so I don't know why I'm doing that. So from, and then you start with some base level container. So we're going to start with one of them that we've already been using, so I'm going to say from node colon 12-stretch. So it knows that it's going to go out to Docker Hub. It's going to find our node stretch container, and that is the starting point for this, right? So we know that this has node installed in it. We know that it has npm installed on it. We know that it has some other features, like they've already created a node user for us. There's a bunch of stuff in there, right? A bunch of goodness. And I'm going to suggest, like, if you're doing a node container, right, like a node project, start with something like this, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be this one. There are other ones out there. I think, yeah, NodeSource makes one. There's another company that I'm just blanking on the name of, but there's a bunch of them that make really good containers. Okay, and then the next thing in here, I'm just going to tell it to do something whenever it starts up, right? So I'm going to say cmd, and then you tell it what to do when it starts up. And you give it an array of things, right? So in this case, I'm going to say node, right? We want it to run node. Then we're going to give it the flag of -e. And then we're going to say run console.log And we have to escape these. There we go. So -e just means immediately execute this string of code right here. So it's actually feeding this in as if it was like the file that Node's going to run for you, right? So as you might imagine, this is just going to run high. So just to show you, if I say node -e oops, and then I do that here. Hopefully that's unsurprising of what that was supposed to do, right? But that's what the -e does. I just wanted to show you that because most people probably don't execute their code that way, and I can't see why not. I'm just kidding. It's a terrible idea. Don't do that. All right. So that's it, right? This is probably the most basic Node application you could write in a Docker file. Now, if you remember, if you just run node stretch directly, it just drops you into the REPL, right? So it has its own CMD in there. So that's how CMD works. It takes the last one that it found, right? So this is the last CMD that it finds, so it executes this one. It overwrote the one that was previously there, right? So if I have one underneath here that says, I don't know, right? It would do this last one. Now, VS Code is going to say, you have CMD in here twice. Why would you do that to yourself, right? So thanks, VS Code. But we'll just get rid of that line, and we'll do it like this. All right, so I'm going to open my CLI here, and I'm in this particular file, and I'm going to say Docker build, and then you just tell it where the Docker file is. It assumes that you named it Docker file. You can tell it something else if you need to, but I'm going to say Docker build dot meaning right here, right? And look for the Docker file in this directory. Okay, so it's going to say from node 12 stretch. Most of us probably still have that on our computer, right? So it'll immediately do that. And then it builds another layer on top of that, which is this command that we do. And then it built this container right here with this name. So I'm going to say Docker run -it. Or actually, you don't even have to do the IT. You can just say Docker run that. And there you go. We just ran our first container that we've created. And I feel like this was really important for everyone to see. Probably the best container ever. Definitely the best container ever. All right. How do we feel about that? Make sense? Good so far? Cool.
So CMD is not necessarily, it's not required for a Dockerfile, but it's a useful thing. Otherwise, it's going to default to whatever
the previous from is, right? And you can make containers that are designed to have executed, right? Because I can still do Docker run this, and I can do ls, right? And it'll overwrite that's CMD in there, right? That's all that this does right here, is it overwrites whatever the CMD is. So you can build containers that are designed to have commands filtered into them, right? Does it make sense? Okay, cool. So it's annoying that I have to say number here, right? Like, it'd be better if there was a name for it. So let's do that. So Docker build, and again, the order here is quite important. We're going to do --tag, and we're going to do my node app. And then period. Now it's going to be instant because it's the exact same Docker file, so everything already exists. It still is caching all of those layers for you, right? So it doesn't redo the same thing. And so now I have my node app latest, which it automatically puts that tag on there for us, that it all just works.
Do we have to specify the version number, or is it always going to be latest?
If you don't specify it, it'll give you latest. If you do specify it, then it'll
Is there a good practice for that?
You should version your containers, yeah. But as you can see, tags are the Wild West, right? You can name them whatever you want, and like lots of people have various different strategies. But I mean, I guess the key there is you just want to be obvious about what people are getting, right? That's what they expect. So let's actually even do that right now. Well, just to show you, Docker run my node app, node app. This now works, right? But let's say I did this again, and we're going to build it, and I'm going to put :1, right? So this is a tag. So then I successfully tagged this as my node app :1. Now let's go change this. So it says, let's go back to Rothel, because that was enlightening as well. Philosophy according to Brian. And we're going to put in there 2 now instead of 1. So now I can come in here and say Docker run my node app 1, and I'll get, oh my god, hi lol. And if I do 2, I'll get Rothel. So that's like the most basic intro to Dockerfiles, right? That's showing you how to tag them, how to build them, and like the most basic set of instructions, right? Like all of them are going to have a from. Most of us aren't going to be building our own base images, and don't ask me how to, because I've never done it myself. I've never needed to, right? I've never needed to build my own Ubuntu. Canonical is much better at building Ubuntu than I am. I'm just like mildly better than I am. That's a joke. Canonical makes Ubuntu. I think they're a lot better at it than I am.